Hello and thanks for staying with us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television AIT. My name is Mwabuozen Joko and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Signature Show this Sunday. Now, in the last 1 week since we returned in this new year, many issues that have significance for our country have arisen both locally and internationally. Now let's start from home. First, former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha flew a kite last week. On Monday, while he was a guest of Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike, Rochas hinted at a new political alliance of good people to rescue Nigeria. He extended his hands of friendship to the Rivers State Governor, calling for like-minded people to work together in his new rescue project. My worry is that with good people like Rochas Okorocha, charlatanism, mediocrity, shallow thought, and much noise are about to take over the captain's post, and then the Nigerian ship will be headed for a wreck. If you ask any fair-minded citizen of Imo State, they will tell you that every Rochas Okorocha should know when to end their political gamble and allow reason and competence to take over. Now that brings me to the emergence of Dr. George Obiozor as President General for Handes and Igbo. Now, George Obiozor is not just a fine and refined diplomat, he is an intellectual of the applied knowledge tribe. My opinion is that Obiozor will indeed affect, in the interest of Igbo nation, his leadership will affect it. I'm only worried, though, by those who have introduced into his agenda the emergence of an Igbo president in 2023. Any Igbo denying Igbo president is labeled a blackleg, a fifth columnist, a hireling, doing the bidding of outside interests. But remember that on this program, I have risen against the nephew of President Muhammadu Buhari, Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, and some other northern apologists who have queried giving a chance to the Igbo of the Southeast to produce Nigeria's next president. Now, my opposition when these commentators raised the criterion of competence above geography in the 2023 election is because Buhari's claim to power in 2015, which they all supported though, was hinged on not competence, but on power returning to the north. Now, if geography was a factor then, why not now? However, Dr. George Obiozor or any other Igbo leader must and should not be consumed by Igbo presidency. It is empty fancy. It diverts attention from the substance. For instance, which is more important, an Igbo presidency or an Igbo and knowledge-based renaissance? How many Professor Ezekwes does the Igbo nation boast of today? Does it take an Igbo presidency to reinvent Igbo moral, historical, cultural, and intellectual preeminence within the Nigerian state? Does it take an Igbo presidency to remind governance within the Igbo territorial space that there can be collective approach to transportation, economic integration, even educational specialization, and human space management and planning? Now, did non-Igbo presidency create the reign of dubious politicians? Did the absence of an Igbo president foist 419ers on some communities as traditional rulers and community leaders? Please, nobody should burden Dr. George Obiozor with the Igbo presidency matter. There is more to do than that. You are watching the Signature Show on AIT. We take a short break now and we'll be back. Please stay with us.
This is signature.tv.org. Breaking the news. Following the news. Analyzing the news. 247 round the clock. All on the go. signature.tv.org. News in your pocket.
Now, on Wednesday, January the 20th, Joseph Biden will be sworn in as the 46th President of the United States. That ceremony will take place under the shadow of security concerns arising from the divisive and extremist politics of the outgoing President Donald Trump. The peak of that politics was the storming of the U.S. Capitol on January 6 by Trump supporters who attempted an insurrection against America's democracy. Now, in a special report this Sunday, Signature Show correspondent Marvelous Obumano compares this American situation with Nigeria's own experience. Stay with us. Nigeria's National Assembly is currently undertaking the sacred task of reviewing the country's constitution. That duty is at the heart of the nation's march towards a fair, equitable, and accountable democratic governance. Besides prescribing the political arrangement that best suits the peace, harmony, and development of the nation, the Constitution establishes institutions that guarantee the political process, protection of the rights of the citizens, and accountability of actors within the political space. To demonstrate the critical nature of institutions within a democracy, experts have been pointing out their role in the current incident in which the American President Donald Trump, on live television, incited his supporters to storm the U.S. Capitol, vandalizing the structures, causing the death of 6 persons, and disrupting the proceedings of the legislature that was counting the electoral college votes in the U.S. presidential election.
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give. The Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything. Not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country.
USA! USA!
4 years of President Trump has tested America like nothing since America's independence. But because of these democratic institutions, they are shock absorbers to accommodate the extremism of public officers. And these institutions makes it possible for the country not to collapse. We owe allegiance to the United States of America and not to President Donald Trump, the president of the United States. You hear in Nigeria every day, they tell you it has to be 100% loyalty. Then I have a question. Loyalty to who? Loyalty to nation? Loyalty to President Buhari? Loyalty to Governor so-and-so? Loyalty to Managing Director of so-and-so? That's the difference here.
As of today, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation has arrested and charged over 100 persons for their role in the riots that desecrated the U.S. National Legislature.
The brutality the American people watched with shock and disbelief on the 6th will not be tolerated by the FBI. The men and women of the FBI will leave no stone unturned in this investigation. Since these events, the FBI has worked hand in hand with the United States Attorney's Office and our law enforcement partners here in D.C. and across the country to arrest and charge multiple individuals who took part in the destruction.
His supporters, whom we all knew, came out to do whatever they did, just to show solidarity and support to him. And despite that, they were all arrested. That shows that nobody is above the law.
Also, the U.S. Congress is taking steps to remove President Donald Trump from office on account of not being faithful to his oath of office to defend and protect the Constitution. He had not only incited the riots, but also in asking the rioters to go home, he expressed his love for them and lied that the election in which he was roundedly defeated was rigged.
I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. but you have to go home now. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
It provides us with a clear understanding of how democratic institutions should function. That instead of strong individuals, if the institution, we expect to see strong institutions, that whoever that is in the hands of authority, more or less saying that nobody is above the law. And once you break the law, you will be held liable no matter how highly placed you are.
Conversely, in Nigeria, the current deputy president of the Senate, Senator Omar Agege, was captured on television camera invading the hallowed chambers of the Senate with violent thugs, putting the lives of other senators at risk and cutting away the mace, the symbol of authority of the Senate. Today, he has been rewarded with the position of Deputy Senate President, and he now leads the sacred exercise of amending the Constitution, a duty that carries the burden of purity of thought, fairness to all, and commitment to the best national values.
As a senator, one of the duty of senator or lawmakers is to make sure that the laws that are being passed are maintained and followed by all. Now, if the givers of the law, the same lawmakers, are the one breaching the law, then I think even the layman on the street is without any form of option.
Not one of the thugs who invaded the Senate chambers with Senator Omar Agege has been identified or punished.
In Nigeria, people commit crimes and they get away with it. There are no sanctions. There's no deterrence. So people do what they like to do and they get away with it. Either because they are rich, either because they are powerful, either because they are smart, either because they can hide. But in America, you commit a crime, you pay for it, no matter how long it takes.
Furthermore, the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello, who was also captured on television, demonstrating how guns could be used to win elections, and under whose watch offices of opposing parties were burnt and a woman opponent burnt alive in her house, remains a governor. He has not been held to account. Today also, his supporters are putting him up for higher national assignment.
If you come down to the issue of Nigeria, the Senator Omogege, who was alleged to be the one that brought in the Hulos, the court went up by exonerating him, not part of any evidence that was seen in him.
As Americans move to sanction those who violated the sanctity of the democratic process, as America's institutions operate in a manner that places every citizen within the authority of the law, they expect the continued strengthening of their democracy to the benefit of all. However, what do Nigerians expect of democracy in their country when infractions are rather rewarded and offenders not brought to account? The answer to this question will determine how well Nigeria democracy fares in the future. Well, thanks for staying with us. This is the Signature Show on AIT. Next is our interview segment, which today focuses on the new policy of matching national identity numbers with our mobile phone numbers. What are the fears and what are the risks? Please stay with us. Well, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show for this Sunday. Always Sunday rendezvous. This Sunday, we are looking at a current development in the Nigerian policy space. The federal government has asked us, Nigerians, to get our national identity numbers matched with our mobile telephone numbers. That directive has created all manner of headaches. People are rushing to the National Identity Management Commission centers across the country, and the pressure is unimaginable. The NIMC workers are even threatening to go on strike because of the pressure from the public and the fear of contracting COVID-19. But in addition to this, some Nigerians are raising some fears about this new policy. We are not specialists in ICT. We are not specialists in this matching of name with our mobile telephone numbers. So this afternoon, I'll be holding a critical conversation with Dr. Uche Mbanaso. Dr. Uche Mbanaso is the Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies, Nassau State University in Kefi. He is also an expert in cybersecurity for 25 years. So apart from being in the thick of the practice, he is also an academic. Dr. Mbanaso, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Dr. Mbanaso, I'm going to come from the point of ignorance. Let me express the fear in the street, just in case we have been afraid for nothing, you could help us. There are many Nigerians who fear that after matching their name with their mobile numbers, either out of carelessness, they lose their phones, or theft, or you even know the current experience of people being kidnapped, or even people being killed and their phones stolen. The new person having that phone, by simply dialing the code of that mobile provider, which has been provided for all of us, he can access your name. And they say, with that, he can also access your BVN and could almost run your life for you, including committing crime in your name, including cleaning out your bank account, including going to post to a lady that they are the most handsome man who owns that phone. Is it a foolish fear, or does it make sense?
I think the fears are germane. The fears are founded. And the fears are real. Let me just take a little bit back. The concept of NIM is a very wonderful concept. And it has wonderful benefits to citizens. But the fact is that the citizens are yet to be aware about these benefits. As we know, anything in the internet is vulnerable to so many risk factors. So many abuses and misuses can happen, and depending on the interest parties, there's a lot of way things can be manipulated with anything that has to do with the internet. So coming to the fears of ordinary man on the street, it is very, very germane. The risk factors are so huge. And I don't think that we have taken time to look at the risk factors and then put out how we can mitigate these risk factors before delving into most of the aspects of the things we're doing with NIM. And so without actually having assessment of, or making an impact assessment of the benefits vis-a-vis the dangers associated with NIM, we might be in a hurry to take some certain decisions that may not go well. Remember, the basic factor of NIM is to protect us. And if you take that protection from us, then you are making us more vulnerable. And just like you said, once you link these mobile phones to NIM and somebody hijack you, or you lose your phone, or whatever means your phone is wrong hand is compromised, then anything can happen. Your bank account can be wiped. So the risk factors are very, very huge. And as we speak, I don't know what are the mitigations that have been put in place. How do we actually thwart the effort of wrong people. There is a lot of malicious people on the internet, malicious, and they have different persuasions and different motivations, and you cannot be able to actually know what is motivating an individual for doing what he's doing. For instance, the Yahoo boys we talked about, since this issue of name linking to mobile phone came out, there are happening a lot of abuses, receiving a lot of kind of phone calls and a lot of things, and
promising to help you match
that, and even to worsen all, the NIMSI mobile has already been faked in the store and in the application stores, and some of these things the unsuspecting user doesn't really know the difference. And so we really, to be honest, we are putting our citizens to a huge danger by the attitude of the way we are trying to implement this linkage.
Should there have been preliminary steps taken before dragging the citizen into this exercise?
Of course. Like I said, if we have done the risk assessment or done the impact assessment, we would have known the implications of what we're doing. And if we take it from that point of view, first of all, what we do is to do a piloting. And after that piloting, you'll be able to be more informed how to go about it. And so you really need an impact assessment vis-a-vis the benefits of what you want to do. And come to think of it, sometimes I just wonder, what is really the objective? The objective of linking the NIM to a mobile phone has not been clearly stated.
Doc, I want to come in here.
Yeah.
There is the security dimension to it, I'm told.
Yes.
When you link your NIM
Yes.
to your mobile
Yes.
phone,
Yes.
as you use it, the security can track who owns this NIM and who makes this call. From experience, the Nigerian security has shown that, has discovered that many criminals, especially the insurgents, are able to do all manner of things with their phones. But now, when a NIM is linked to a number, if they track that number, they will know who is doing what. Isn't that a necessary step in terms of securing the nation?
Well, security is not bolt and nut. Security is common sense. In most advanced countries, you don't even register a SIM card. But of course, if you use this SIM card, the next day they know who has used that SIM card. So the truth is that if it's from security point of view, we don't need to link mobile phone to NIM to be able to track a user. There are several other technologies. And with artificial intelligence and machine learning today, we can track anyone using anything. And so it is this obvious way of doing it might be very, very counterproductive and can even lead to more people being harmed. For instance, I can take your phone now and I'll go and commit a crime. And it's not simply you were careless. I hijacked you on the road, and my interest is to take your phone, and I use your phone to commit a fraud. The wrong person will be picked up. But if that is actually the objective, there are various ways you can link every activity of an individual without making it obvious. The technologies are out there. As I'm coming here for this particular conversation, there are things that's not obvious to anybody that can be used to track my movement. And so I think we should be more smarter and think technology, the way to solve problems using technology, and that is the smarter way of doing things. For instance, let me just tell you, in the UK, you don't need to register a SIM card. But when a crime is committed, within 2 or 3 minutes, it's constructed, and they tell you all the mobile phones that were used to do that conversation. That is what technology does for you. And we have talented Nigerians who can put all these pieces and pieces together to be able to achieve if it's for security purposes.
Doc, I want to raise another fear, which also in media conversation has popped up, that this push to match name with numbers can in fact be exploited, because a number of Nigerians are now making an effort to get their name, that the rush can be exploited by criminals, by insurgents, by non-Nigerians to obtain a name. And the moment you obtain that name, we have legitimized your illegitimacy. You are a non-Nigerian, we are giving you a name. And with it, you got a phone number and got a BVN. So, although you come from Mauritania, although you come from Chad, Niger, wherever, Libya, having in the rush gotten a name, you have illegitimately become a Nigerian. And the system will now begin to see you as a Nigerian. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, there is this argument there that name has nothing to do with nationality. And I think this argument has been argued that having a name doesn't really make you a Nigerian.
But it's called national
that is the point. That is the point. Well, people can argue that that is semantics. But coming from the point of view of using the word national, it has to connote that citizenship. It has to connote that citizenship. But having said that, if we really understand what digital identity is all about, because the name is just a digital identity. It's an opaque, what we call opaque handle that identifies you, okay? And that opaque handle that identifies you means we can link several attributes of you to that particular identity, which means it's not really only the telephone. And by the way, let me say this. If just only the telephone, there is one utility out there that is even more dangerous. If maybe have what they call Truecaller. Yes. Truecaller is invading our privacy enormously. And nobody is even talking about that. That Truecaller is linking all our numbers, you know, unobtrusively without any form of consent to the individuals. This is purely a very big violation. And I think that our data protection should have taken charge of this and make sure that Truecaller is not invading the privacy of citizens. So I think the essence of NIM has more benefits, commercial benefits to citizens, and that should be our focus. Our focus should not be security, because there are several ways I can link individual. I don't think your telephone number. And by the way, like you have said, I can use your number to commit a crime. And so if you don't know other means to be able to aggregate activities or transactions that's happened and get the actual person that have done that, then you're missing the whole thing.
Okay, Doc, I want to go to a different dimension of public fear, public concern, in fact. Before this government came to power, the National Identity Management Commission was said to have registered about a little bit over 7 million Nigerians and issued them with ID numbers. That since the Buhari administration, that figure has gone up to almost 40 million. In other words, there's an incremental progression. There is a cost element to the current name phone number linkage. Is it not, wouldn't it have been better to push these resources to the commission that is seen to be having some progression, so that it can up its performance? Say, before the Buhari administration leaves, it may have registered up to 100 million Nigerians. So there's an incrementalism that people are progressing. Are we not mismanaging resources?
Well, I'm not an economist. And for that, I won't go the way whether we are mismanaging resources.
Okay, let us say I'm not misapplying resources.
Well, that is, I think the fact is that remains that like I said before, good policies without articulating the best way to implement also will result to waste of resources. The incremental increase, enrollment of NIM should be something that should go gradually. We don't need any fire brigade approach to it, and that is the truth about it. So you're supposed to use existing platforms, which there are many of them, government institutions that are already. We have passport offices almost everywhere in the country. You have local governments almost everywhere in the country. And by the way, the national identity is supposed to be a grassroots something. It's supposed to even start from your town if we really want to actually identify people. So it should have started from the grassroots. And after some years, we can see that if I actually have these names, to a greater large number. So I think the people who answer this question are the people who knows the reason about the approach. So there must be, something behind the scene that we don't understand or we don't know, and nobody has actually come out to, like I said, the clear objective is not there, so nobody has actually come out to say why doing this and at this time and at this hour, and the rush and all the panic measures that have been put in place. So unless you know what it is, it's just like a son and father relationship. You might be doing something you know better. Your son doesn't know as much as you know. So the policymakers may know better than some of us, but what they owe us is to actually tell us what they're doing. And the benefit, we will derive from it. Because of course, if I know the benefit, and it's very, very beneficial, I will key into it. I don't need to be forced. But you see that people are being forced because of the threat of, the associating them. Yes, to defranchise them from their numbers. And in this digital age, everybody wants to be connected. Everybody, you want to access the internet, you want to social media and all that. So that is actually, you see people rushing for that kind of potential deprivation.
Tuche, let me be unfair to you. Are you worried by the accusation that the Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, whose office is driving this new policy, is simply carving an area of influence for himself?
I don't think so. And it might not even be that the minister rolled out this particular program. But as an officer in charge, he is the one to implement. And so until you know the objectives or the goal, you will know who to blame. Okay, so I wouldn't think so. I would think that probably he is doing what he's asked to do.
Interject again, Prof. Doc. In conversation, people have said that the National Identity Management Commission, or that project, was not particularly a Nigerian-inspired idea. The World Bank saw it as necessary as it advised Nigeria, and a number of interest groups who wish us very well have been funding and pushing for this national identity. If this narrative has any truth to it, what do outside interests have to benefit from enrolling all of ourselves into a National Identity Management Commission?
Thank you very much. I think what you said is very, very important to the whole equation of NIMC or NIM. NIMC started as part of the reforms. Remember, this started in 2007 during the Obasanjo's administration. And as you rightly pointed out, it's not a Nigerian-grown idea. I think it was part of the reforms because if you know, the 419 is a very huge thread that a lot of people in the Western world fear a lot, and they feel this is a Nigerian thing, and they want to be able to have digital identity attached to every Nigerian, so that if they make transactions or try to do this can be actually be monitored, they have more sophisticated way to be able to gather some of this information and pin it to individuals. And I think this was a kind of what happened, and they started sponsoring to be able to help Nigeria, seem to help Nigeria. Just like every other thing that happens in most of in our country, there's always foreign interest. And for us, we don't look back to see how we balance between this foreign interest,
Our own
unique interest. So that is a very huge gap between the way we approach things. And I think in a very smart way, like I said in the beginning, that the name, I buy the idea. But we can turn it to our own advantage if we actually have done a very good assessment of the benefits and how we can make it to be for us, more uniquely and for our advancement. And so that is what is actually the gap for that project.
Well, in the past 20 minutes or so, I've been conversing with Dr. Uche Mbanaso, the Executive Director, Center for Cyberspace Studies, Nasarawa State University in Kefi. And I also said to you at the beginning that his subject of expertise really is cybersecurity. And he's been in this business for over 25 years. So he's talking from both experience and academic knowledge. Dr. Uche Mbanaso, I want to thank you for coming to the conversation.
Thank you.
Incidentally, Dr. Uche Mbanaso, I also hope that the minister will be able to key into what you've said today, maybe to provide us more enlightenment, more education on why we're doing what we're doing now.
Yes, I think the most important thing we need to do, and we need to really sit down, is to be able to seek the advice of experts. And when I mean experts, we have a lot of experts in Nigeria. We don't need experts from anywhere. Some of us obtained our degrees from where and we even did better. We even did better in classrooms than most of the people we import in this country to take decisions for us. So what they need to do is to gather, experts. They can have a track proof of their expertise, and advise them how to really secure NIM. NIM is a lot of security measures. It has very huge risk factors, and if we don't secure NIM, we are prone to have a lot of citizens who will actually suffer. And I mean everybody, not just an ordinary person, whether you're a big person or a small person. It's just like COVID. It doesn't have any respect. It doesn't discriminate. So anybody can be a victim. So I think what we need is how to secure NIM and make it a tamper-proof. And I think we can do that. And the benefit is very, very huge. And we should look at the commercial benefit of this to citizens rather than the other way.
Okay, the conversation continues shortly. Don't go away. Good afternoon. Yeah, Pastor Chijoko Koli is an experienced lawyer and a senior advocate of Nigeria. Incidentally, I'm talking to Pastor Chijoko Koli. He is in Victoria Island in Lagos. Because of the importance of this issue, we have to speak with him on Zoom. Pastor Koli, you are welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yes, Pastor Koli, I'm going to come purely from point of ignorance, because indeed I'm ignorant. The federal government has begun this new policy of asking us citizens to match our national identity number with our mobile telephone numbers. And some of us ordinary Nigerians are asking, does this have any legal implications for the citizen? We can only get that education from you. Are there any legal implications?
Yes. There's so many legal implications because, for starters, in any modern society, you have to deal with the identification in all societies generally. And in this particular digital age, you have to deal with some digitalized, recording of identification. So the legal implications are limitless. In fact, it will get to the point really where you would be necessarily denied a certain benefits that will otherwise inure to you as a person, because this identification is of the same category at, let's say, the passport is also a means of identification. So without your passport, I mean, it's everywhere. You can't open a bank account without a valid form of identification. The police meet you on the road, you're acting suspiciously, said, can you identify yourself? You can bring out a card, you may have stolen it, but it has to be a particular, when you bring an identification that has an official stamp to it, that conveys greater genuineness. And then, of course, but the bigger issue really is where you have to, as it were, warehouse this identification. Warehouse in terms of, I mean, if you're talking about digital age, it's not like physical warehouse as such, yes. But you warehouse it, you have control of those, the identification of so many people. And we know things like identity theft. If your identity is stolen and used, I mean, it's maybe the next thing to having your entire physical resources stolen. Because we've had issues where maybe people steal some other person's identity and then you can't function. The person has now taken the place of the victim, operate the bank account, do a host of other things. So when we are talking about these, there's a host of legal implications, particularly the person who is authorized. So really, whoever, because of the necessities of modern existence, entities, whether governmental or private or in between, would have to keep this data. So because of the sensitive nature, they're obligated to be extremely careful in protecting this data because this identity in their mass become, are in data form. So that's it. So there's a lot of, wide spectrum of legal issues involved.
Yeah, but so Cole, I want to be a little bit. I hope you don't mind.
Issues of privacy.
Good. Yeah, I was going to that. I was going to the matter of privacy. Now, if I'm given a passport, and I know that I keep it as my property and I'm responsible for its safety. It is private to me. If it gets lost, it's my own carelessness and I take responsibility. But the data being collected is not in my custody. It is in the custody of the mobile telephone organizations. Is it not
that is the registration of your
of this? Yes. And people outside of me can have access to all the information on my national identity card. Besides, the government, our constitution guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of association, and all those freedoms. By this matching, the government can snoop on me, decide to monitor my conversation with you, decide to monitor my conversation with my concubine, decide to monitor my conversation with my daughters and my sons. In other words, I have nothing private again. Is it not a breach of that my constitutional right of privacy and of freedom to say what I want to say without being snooped on?
Really, no freedom is absolute. No freedom is absolute. Even the freedom of, your right to your privacy is not total. The concept jurisprudentially, in a state of nature without the state, it's dog eat dog, survival of the fittest. But conceptually, human beings evolve a society with a state that you surrender a certain aspect of your right to regulate. You see, by the same token, the state, how about those who plan terrorist attack don't go to CNN or to talk about it? So the state, notionally, is owned not by somebody, but the entire society. So the same way that probably you take your money and in your village association or development as or town union, you pay some dues. And it is now used for everybody's benefit in an ideal situation. That is why we also have the law, which is to a certain degree independent of the state, so that when the state now encroaches far beyond its own remit, then you can come in. You see, for example, let me tell you, like the law of evidence, you are afraid that they would look about your concubine, or whether you have this or you have some child somewhere, it's your secret. The point is, the state is not, even when they get that information, even when the state or its agencies get that information, they cannot use it as it pleases them, except as authorized by the law. And of course, the foundation of the law is the Constitution, which actually gives that right of privacy to you in the first place. So in a dispute, the law mediates and decides whether what would at first blush look like an interference with that right is one so or one in the peculiar circumstances of the given case, whether it's to be excused. So if people are committing terrorist activities and they say, no, you can't look into, then the society cannot function. The same way, if you're suspected of terrorist activities and you're snooped upon, for example, and then the person snooped upon finds out, or the people doing the snooping find some other totally but significant information, but outside of issues of state security, the court may well intervene to say that that particular piece of evidence will not be admitted. So for all practical purposes, you may know it, but it's of no use for legal relations.
Now, as much as these mobile telephone providers are called Nigerian companies, there is the allegation that they have their database outside of this country. For instance, MTN is said to domicile its data based in South Africa. Airtel, maybe United Arab Emirates, and so on. Is it not wrong for a policy to make information about me available in those areas, to South Africa, to United Arab Emirates, because other authorities can also have access to them?
Okay, now, let me, for starters, it is allegation, so we don't know for sure. It's, if it becomes an issue, it's a bit academic, but let's even take it academically, because for starters, those companies are Nigerian companies. Where and how they do other business would conform with Nigerian law. The Nigerian law, they are regulated. And the people who are regulating them are also in step with them, knowledge-wise, NCC, right? But having said that, you see, this issue of domiciling data in a particular specific geographical location has been rendered redundant by current technologies. Because if you see in the news, people sit down and hack into websites of US government. They will stay somewhere in the old Soviet Union. So it's that concept is just like the bank. Before digital banking, you have to do physical check and then they carry it somewhere. But today, with your smartphone, you operate your account in United Kingdom, in Canada, anywhere in the world. So really, in practical terms, where they put it, whether South Africa or not, it's really immaterial, because all these things are cloud-based. They're impervious to geographical boundaries. The key thing is the internationalization of the protection, that wherever that company calls its headquarters or parent company, that it is put in a straitjacket, that it must be very, very, very careful in securing the data of the customers or the human beings who it is privileged to keep their data. So really, I don't think that's a particular problem. That's my view.
There is a last scenario I want to paint. I've matched my name with my phone number, and my phone is stolen, and that phone is used to commit a crime. To what degree am I liable, and to what degree can I be legally protected?
Well, it's a question of fact. On surface, you look like a suspect, but if you come and explain to the law enforcement authorities, lawyers would normally tell you that, well, Nemo, that would not happen. You can't give what you don't have. If you apply that concept to this place, I mean, somebody used a phone at the material time when that phone was used to commit a crime, it was not in your custody. It's even immaterial that you did not immediately report to the police. But it's a question of fact as to whether, because again, here we're also talking that we must come to terms with the current technologies. They would track that phone. The service providers, when they try to investigate, if the police really wants to know, they could find out from geolocation that probably that phone, you are in Abuja, but that phone was used in Suleja or even in Lagos, to by the time they used it to activate whatever they wanted to do. So all you need maybe explain the alibi that at this particular time, I am here. If you check this phone, when this thing was done, the particular offensive use to quit the phone was put. You would locate that it was not from my house, my office, or probably a different town. And I can explain that at that material time, I was somewhere else.
Well, Barrister Chijoke Okole, I can assure you that a number of us who are raising questions from point of ignorance, who are raising fears that legal rights are being breached by this rush policy, who also fear that we are also being exposed to certain legal exploitations, we may have some reassurance for this conversation. I want to thank you very much for finding the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, that's our package for this Sunday. Please join us at the same time next week. And don't forget that if you want to watch this program again, simply visit www.signaturetv.org. Now, thanks for investing your time with us this Sunday. My name never changes. I'm Wabweze Njoku. Good afternoon.